Welcome to the Alcohol Addiction Podcast. My name is Lee Davey. I am not an alcoholic. I refuse to be anonymous. I am someone who doesn't drink alcohol. I spend every waking moment helping other people do the same. How are you doing, folks? I hope everything is all right out there in Strive land. Let me just find something that I wanted to talk about. There it is. I got it. I want to start out by saying a big well done and a hug and a kiss to Striver Tracy. Tracy is gone 12 weeks without having a drink. 12 weeks without having a drink. And I think that is a real solid landmark for her. I've loved the way that she's been regularly coming onto Strive, sharing her journey, talking about the things that are driving her to drink, and also being unafraid to protect her boundaries when other people in the community, sometimes myself, cross those boundaries by trying to tell her what to do, or trying to say, hey, Tracy, this is what I would do in this situation. Or, hey, Tracy, why don't you do this, okay? Which is an area of my communication skills that I need to brush up on. And Tracy, a lot of people, when they're subjected to that in Strive, they leave, right? They're just like, I don't want to be in this place, all this tough love nonsense and people trying what they leave. But no, Tracy just stuck around and just made it very clear that tough love is not her approach. And she just kind of like, has a gentle handoff when anyone crosses that line. And I really respect her for that. And she's going through a lot of changes at the moment with her career and in her mind. And I tell you what, when you are going through monumental changes in your life, not drinking alcohol is going to serve you so well. And if you're drinking alcohol through these monumental changes, it's going to make them so much tougher. And I'm sure Tracy is experiencing that right now. So well done, Tracy. I think you're a diamond. We are going to be running another Truth About Alcohol taster starting on November the 1st. I've already had an email off an old striver who left a while ago, who's going through a lot of struggles. Jen, we love you. And hopefully Jen's going to be coming back November the 1st to try the taster, to have a go at being alcohol-free for a month. If you want to join Jen in the month of November to have an alcohol-free month and give yourself that kind of run-up you need to have an alcohol-free Christmas, then send me an email at truthaboutalcohol@gmail.com, okay? And I will send you a link and you will be able to sign up for that taster and have exclusive access to the month with a video a day from yours truly, an assignment that you can share on a peer-by-peer basis, and you will be inserted into the community, the Strive Community Forum, our movement of millions of people one day that don't drink alcohol, okay? And you'll get that for 1 month, and that will be a fantastic experience for you. Right, it's Wednesday today. I'm going to start every Wednesday doing a little bit of a book review, I thought. And one, to give you an idea of the books that you might want to buy to, help you learn more about the philosophy of the Truth About Alcohol. Or maybe you don't want to buy them and, my sound bites that I'm going to deliver through this podcast may be enough for you to, not need to buy the book and just get the best bits out of it. I remember there was an app created, Blinkist. There was an app called Blinkist. Fantastic idea, where people in Germany, smart Alex in Germany, they were reading books and they were pulling out the main bullet points in a book and they were just highlighting the main bullet points in this app Blinkist. So you could let's say you wanted to read like today's book, right? The Easyway to Control Alcohol by Allen Carr. You could order that through Blinkist, and rather than reading, a 10,000 word book or whatever, you could just read the main points. Check that out, Blinkist app. It's really, really good. Because if you think about it, most of these self-help books are centered around maybe 5 to 10 bullet points that are really, really important. But then they pad it out with a load of fluff in order for it to look like a book. Otherwise, you'd just be buying a PDF. So getting those bullet points are really important. So I'm going to be sharing a book with you every week. If you want to want me to read a particular book and share my ideas around the philosophy of alcohol and how it kind of interacts, and let me know. Yeah, we'll go with that. But today we're going to start with the easy way to control alcohol, okay? And the reason we're starting with this book is it is the first book that I ever read, self-help wise, that I actually understood, and it created a real profound meaning in my life. Actually, that's not true. I started off with a complete and utter lie. It is the second book that I ever read that rocked my world. The first book was The Easy Way to Stop Smoking Permanently by Allen Carr 17 years ago. The difference between reading the smoking book and reading his alcohol book was 17 years ago, I was only ready to stop smoking, right? I wasn't ready to change my life. I wasn't ready to philosophize. I wasn't ready to ask the big questions. I wasn't thinking about anything other than keeping up with the Joneses, living in the material world, and becoming the CEO of Deutsche Bahn at that time. That's all I was interested in doing, okay? And going out and getting smashed out of my tits every weekend. 7 years after I read the smoking book, my marriage is going through a mess, as everybody knows, and I decided that I would turn to Allen Carr again and read The Easy Way to Control Alcohol. And the reason that it was such an important book for me is once I put it down, I was then ready for a radical change in my life. And from that moment sprung forth a unquenchable thirst for education, knowledge, and philosophy around life, always coming back to why do we drink alcohol? Or why are we consuming this powerful poison that kills 3.3 million people a year? And every single book, I mean, someone the other day, very upset customer on the Truth About Alcohol Life-Changing Experience said, I want my money back. This is a load of crap and you're nothing but a plagiarist. Well, yeah, everything in the world is ripping off an idea that they've got from somewhere else. You know, I'm just not sugarcoating it and stealing it and turning it into my own thing. I'm very open that everything that I've read and learned from such incredible teachers like Allen Carr, Melanie Joy, Jeremy Griffith, you know, they are all, I speak about them. David Burns is another one. I speak about them on a share the material in The Truth About Alcohol. It's super important, I think. Like, if you want to advance in the world, what better way than learning from a great mentor in a book, because it's going to be more difficult to get hold of them on a one-to-one situation to ask them to be your mentor, right? Because time permitting, it's going to be really difficult. I don't say it's unheard of. I think if you set your goal to, befriend an Allen Carr, right? Allen Carr's passed away, but a Melanie Joy or a David Burns. I mean, Melanie Joy and David Burns are two great examples. They are absolutely fantastic role models in my life because I read their books. Yet I can interact with them on email, and I've spoken to them on Skype, and I feel like I have their ear, and that is super important for me. So you can do these things. It's just, getting your mindset right on it. So the Allen Carr Easy Way to Control Alcohol was really super important to me, okay? What was it about that book that worked for me? Because it doesn't work for everybody, does it? Without a doubt, Allen Carr has been an absolute savior and an angel and saved lives in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, I would imagine, in terms of both smoking and drinking. But I also know people who pick up his material and it doesn't work. But what is the doesn't work anyway, in inverted commas? I always remember when David Barrett, a guy that I used to work with on the railway, he first read the smoking book and gave up and then told me he'd given up smoking reading a book. I thought it was incredulous. How could you give up smoking reading a book? What was it about the book that was going to help you give up something that I couldn't give up if I tried in a month of Sundays, right? Well, to me, it's all about timing. I think you need to be ready to read Allen Carr's book. And I think what I mean by you need to be ready is you need to have a completely radically transparent openness about your thinking. There can't be any barriers up preventing his philosophy from filling your mind and getting into those neurological connections that have been forged by the invisible, violent, and dominant belief system that is alcoholism, and breaking the cellular structure of that belief system apart, okay? One of the biggest problems I see with things like Allen Carr's Easyway to Control Alcohol and why it doesn't work is resistance, right? It's process resistance and outcome resistance. Process resistance in as much as the resistance will tell you not to finish the book. Like, you don't need to finish this book. This book is stupid. This book is not really making any sense. One I hear a lot of people is, he repeats himself. That is the resistance talking. The resistance wants you to keep on drinking, so it tells you that he repeats himself. It tells you that the book is nonsense. It tells you not to finish it because it wants you to drink. And resistance knows that if you wave away the notion that he is repeating himself, or accept and understand that the repetitive nature of his book is one of the key reasons why you will be able to be someone who doesn't drink alcohol, okay? And you realize that, okay, I'm going to finish this book, and when I do, I'm going to be walking into new territory, and I'm going to be shitting my pants, because suddenly I'm going to be someone who doesn't drink alcohol in a world of nut jobs who do drink alcohol, okay? But I'm ready to face that fear and whatever consequences and enlightening events come with that, okay? Now, if you are willing to remove alcohol from your life and not have it be the crutch that it has been for you for so many, many, many years, then you will be able to open your mind. But if there is even a scratch there, and even an itch of you finding that there's value in drinking alcohol, you will find it really difficult to open your mind to Allen Carr. The resistance will sniff it out a mile off, and it will creep in there, and you will start challenging his philosophy. And once you start challenging your philosophy, and this is particularly prevalent with men, all right? Men don't like being told what to do. Women are more likely to listen to someone giving them some instruction and respecting that and giving it a go. In my experience and from what I've read scientifically, men are more likely to get more defensive, more aggressive, and to hold on to their control of a situation or a piece of knowledge or an understanding, and try to spend their time defending and arguing their point rather than just wholeheartedly agreeing with what the other person's saying. And for me, if you are someone who is really struggling and you want to stop drinking alcohol, and someone came along and said, here's a pill, like, take that pill and you will never stop drinking again, a lot of people would choose to take that pill. So why then, when you come along and say, hey, if you just listen to everything that this person says, and I kind of guarantee you that it's going to help you become someone who doesn't drink alcohol, then I think that's worth a shot. I think that is worth a shot of giving it a go. All right. Now, you might turn around and say, well, that's the same with AA. Why can't you just listen to the 12 steps? Well, I think it's quite evident out there in the world that whilst the 12 steps work for a lot of people, they don't work for an awful lot of people. And I don't know what the stats are around Allen Carr, but I know around the environment that I swill around in, there's nothing but value that you're going to get from that book, even if this philosophy doesn't work, okay? So I would say to all the men out there and anyone else who wants to pick the book up, every time he talks about a certain philosophy that doesn't quite strike a chord with you, let's say, for example, he says to you that alcohol tastes disgusting, there is really no point arguing internally that alcohol tastes wonderful, because all you're doing, think about this, there are two people in your mind. There's the one who wants to stop drinking, and there's the one that don't. And the one that don't is called resistance. And the one that does is called the enlightened you. And when you're reading Allen Carr say, nobody likes the taste of alcohol, okay, that it's just kind of, when you first drank alcohol right at the very beginning, it was disgusting, and it is disgusting. It's designed to be disgusting, so Mother Nature will repel it, which it does with the smell and the vomit, right? If he says that, your enlightened you will want to believe it, but the resistance within you will say, no, I fucking love beer. I love a real ale. I love drinking fine wines, right? Even though if you do the research in blind tests, okay, blind taste tests, the greatest wine tasters in the world can't taste the difference between $2 chuck and a expensive bottle of whatever they call it these days, right? The resistance will try to argue. The enlightened you will lose because the resistance is more powerful, particularly when you're dealing with a soul-changing shift. And becoming someone who doesn't drink alcohol falls into that category, if you ask me. It is a soul-shaking paradigm shift in your life, right? So the resistance will be at its strongest. So in that case, what I would advise you to do is drop your defenses, drop your notion that, yeah, alcohol tastes nice, and find a way to allow Allen Carr's theory around taste, in this example, to enter your mind so you can make the most advantage of that, okay? This is not about losing your manliness. This is not about lying down and being walked all over. This is not about being brainwashed and giving in or surrendering or subjugating to something that you don't believe in. This is about being someone who doesn't drink alcohol. This is what this is about. So instead of saying to yourself, I don't believe that I don't taste alcohol, say to yourself, how can I think about this point of view in a way that makes sense to me and makes it real to me? Okay, so a cracking example would be, rather than say, I really enjoy the taste of my wonderful wine, okay, is to say to yourself, well, actually, ethanol at its raw form is repellent. It's absolutely disgusting. And I wouldn't like the taste of it. The only reason I like wine is I like all the bits that are added to alcohol. So why don't I just drink non-alcoholic wine? Why don't I just drink all the bits and not the alcohol? And furthermore, if I really enjoy the taste of wine and I never ever drink alcohol before 12 o'clock in the afternoon, am I saying that I never want to drink an enjoyably tasting drink before 12 o'clock in the morning? Because if I did, and I'm sure I do, why don't I ever drink wine if the reason I'm drinking it is because it tastes nice? Because I think if you start questioning yourselves like that, and another good example is write down a list of all the liquids that you drink that taste nice and where does wine rank in that list. Invariably, if you're being honest, it ranks pretty low behind things like juice, kombucha, Coke, if that's what you drink, water, I don't know, coffee, tea, milkshake, hot chocolate. I could think of a myriad of different drinks that wine is going to be somewhere down the pecking order. It becomes obvious that you're not drinking alcohol because it tastes nice, all right? So you can scratch that off the list, can't you? You can say to yourself, of all the reasons I think I drink alcohol, this is not the one. I'm never, if I put another way, if the only trigger you had was that you kept drinking alcohol because it tasted nice, then it's not going to be long before you're someone who doesn't drink alcohol, because really and truly, that's not a strong trigger, is it? We are not drinking alcohol because it tastes nice, ladies and gentlemen. We're not saying to ourselves, oh my God, I can't stop drinking alcohol because it tastes so fucking good. That is never happening. Not one single person has ever come through the doors at Strive with that problem, all right? So keep an open mind about it. Really super important. One of the primary things that I got out of Allen Carr, the primary thing that I got out of Allen Carr, was this notion that alcohol holds no value. Okay? Holds no value. All right? And again, if you find yourself arguing with me that alcohol does hold value, then that is the resistance talking. Because why would you want to argue that it does hold value if you want to stop drinking alcohol, and you are being told by someone who's been through this experience that to believe that it holds no value is going to help change your neurological connections, your neurochemical reactions to the environments and the emotional events that lead to you drinking alcohol, okay? So, no value. What I liked about Allen Carr's Easyway to Control Alcohol is he kind of, well, we all get triggered for many, many different reasons. But what Allen Carr's done is he said to himself, okay, we can kind of pare these down to 5 or 6 core issues, you know? And actually, if you ever take the Truth About Alcohol Taster, we have a module called The 7 Sins of Sobriety, where I talk about the 7 most powerful triggers that we have. And most of them are covered in Allen Carr's Easyway to Control Alcohol, right? So he highlights the main triggers, such as I believe alcohol increases my social life. I believe that alcohol stops me from being bored. I believe that alcohol quiets the voices in my mind, etc., etc. And he writes them out. And then he challenges them by using a different philosophy and thinking about those triggers in a different way. And if you have an open mind and you allow him to teach you through his writing these new ways of thinking about alcohol, and you can create enough painful associations against alcohol or pleasurable associations towards being alcohol free, okay, either combination of those helps. But in one way or another, you've got to really convince your mind and feel it at the same time as thinking it, that becoming someone who doesn't drink alcohol is going to be fucking brilliant, all right? Because if you don't, it's never going to work. Now, if you do those things and you allow him to question these values, then your whole world is going to change. Because I've been dealing with this issue with Teresa on the Truth About Alcohol at Taster at the moment. I mean, Teresa have been talking about value. And I've been saying, Teresa, what is the value that comes up for you when you're drinking? And Teresa's saying, there is no value, it's just a habit. But of course there's a value, right? Because everything we do for a reason. Every action we take, okay, there is a reason why we're taking that action, either consciously or subconsciously. So when we choose to drink alcohol in any given moment or every given time of the day, there is a reason why we are doing it. Either we are thirsty or we feel that it's socially unacceptable not to drink, or we are trying to quiet voices in our head, or we think it's going to remove physical pain, or we think it's going to put ourselves to sleep, or we think it's going to turn us into a sexual tyrannosaurus, okay? Whatever it is, there will be a reason why you're drinking. There will be a desire, that this reason why you are drinking, this craving, leads to a desire, which then leads to you drinking alcohol, okay? So you have value. I find this X value in drinking. That value creates a desire or a craving, and that desire or a craving kicks in a routine, and that routine is that you drink alcohol, all right? And then when you drink alcohol, you get the reward that you think you perceived you was going to get in the beginning, all right? It's classic Charles Duhigg, power of habit loop, right? Let me say that again. You have a desire or you think that there is value in drinking alcohol. You have a desire or a craving that comes up from that value, and then you react to that craving or desire by having a drink, which is your routine. And that value that you find in alcohol is triggered by certain environmental or emotional cues or stimuli. So an example is you walk into a bar or a restaurant, and suddenly your brain, your cerebellum, knows exactly what record to play in that moment for you to autonomously act without thinking consciously about it. All right. So your brain has already loaded up a jukebox full of records it plays in certain events. So let's say you're the classic male Manchester United fan who's been drinking at Old Trafford all his life. that every time you go to Old Trafford, and you've been like this since you was a kid, you meet up with your uncle in the pub and everybody has a drink, and then you go to the game and you have meat and potato pie and chips on your way there, okay? And then at the end of the game, you have another pint. That is a recorded set of events with an associated neurochemical signature added to the neocortex. The neocortex pulls in like all the knowledge, all the information that's out there. The smell and the taste of the meat pie, the camaraderie and the good vibe and the loud noise and the laughter of the crowd. Okay, the cold feeling of the liquid going down your neck, and then your limbic brain attaches a neurochemical signature to that, which is feel good chemicals. So every time you go into that environment, that's what happens, right? But now let's imagine. But the reason that you're doing that, and the reason that the neurochemicals that come from a limbic brain are good, positive, happy, vibey, nice feeling chemicals, is because you found immense value in that scenario. Like there was an immense value in going to the football, watching the football, etc., with this gang of people. But if you pare that down and say, where does the actual value lie in that situation? Well, I would argue, okay, that the presence of the alcohol is a red herring. You could be chewing on a pen, right? So from the age of 13 to the age of 43, you might have been meeting with Uncle Allen in Old Trafford Cricket Club every afternoon at 12 o'clock, and you've got a pen in your mouth. And then everybody's there meeting until kick-off. You walk down, you take your pen out of your mouth to eat your meat and potato pie. You put your pen back in your mouth. You go to the game. At half-time, you take your pen out of your mouth to have your cup of Bovril. And then at the end of the game, you go back to the cricket club again, okay? And you've still got your pen in your mouth. And you've had a wonderful, fantastic time. And your neocortex, your limbic brain, and your cerebellum will record that as a non-declarative memory, which is a memory that is a rote memory, a memory that just kicks into action without you even thinking about it, okay? It will record it with good, pleasurable neurochemicals from the limbic brain, right? So now every time you go in that cricket club, you feel great. But are you ever going to say that the reason I feel great, the real primary reason that I'm feeling so wonderful is that I have a pen in my mouth? Well, you're not, are you? Okay? Because the real primary reason that is such a wonderful experience for you is you get to spend time with your uncle. Quality time with someone who you love and you respect. You get to spend time with the lads or the mates or people who you've built friendship up with for years. You get that feel-good vibe, the anticipatory effect that you get about attending a sporting event or watching your beloved team playing when you're singing and you're talking about the game with people, okay? The walk down amidst all the waving flags and the singing is still more of the same. The meat and potato pie, if you like that type of thing, which I used to, you love the taste of that stuff, okay? You go into the ground and there's a singing and there's a roar and there's a stars on the pitch and when they score and all that kind of stuff. The halftime break when you're having your Bovril, it gives you that lovely feeling about being a kid, being 10, freezing your nuts off on a pitch. And at halftime, you come off and your mum gives you a cup of Bovril, right? It has nothing to do with the alcohol. The alcohol is providing you with no value in that situation. In fact, if you continue to drink alcohol in that situation, your wonderful experience locked in of that event would dissipate. It would deteriorate because all of a sudden you wouldn't be compos mentis to experience all these wonderful things like the laughter, like the singing, like the flag waving, like the taste of the meat and potato pie, like the taste of the Bovril, like watching the game, because you slowly, when you drink alcohol, become dumb as fuck. You become stupid and you start to black out and lose short-term memory and you dull your senses. So your neocortex is unable to really kind of give you the full flavor of the kind of buffet of wonderful entertainment that's in front of you. Okay? The alcohol provides you with no value in that situation. Now that was an absolute game changer for me when I thought about that, because then I could say to myself, well, if that's true, where else am I drinking alcohol? Well, one of my primary ones was after work. Me, Stuart, and Basha would stop off at the pub to have 3 pints between us before we went home. And I thought that having those 3 pints provided me with tremendous value. Well, it didn't, did it? The value came from sitting down with Basha and Stuart, away from the rough and tumble of the day-to-day fire stamping work of the railway, to suddenly being able to talk about it at a distance, about what was really going on for us and how we were that was like true raw connection between three workmates. The alcohol had nothing to do with it. And had we continued to drink alcohol more than 3 pints, if we had a second round, so now we've got 6 pints, that connection would deteriorate. Our ability to open up with each other and to make sense and to offer support and to listen and be there for each other, be present, would deteriorate. So alcohol holds no value in that situation. It just decreases it, okay? Similarly, if I then stopped off at the pub with my mate, at Acker's, and I sat by the bar with him talking about life, the alcohol doesn't provide any value in that situation. It's my depth of conversation and the extraction of memories that make us laugh that creates the feel-good factor of me and Akers being together. The alcohol is an illusion when it comes to value. If anything, if me and Akers sat by that bar and just continued to drink and drink and drink, we would forget what we was even talking about. How can a conversation that you can't even remember add value? It doesn't add value, does it? Okay? So all of a sudden, through what Allen Carr is telling me, in as much as you think that these things hold value for you, but they don't, I can suddenly realize that every scenario that I thought held value for me, none of it held any value. Particularly when you think longer term as opposed to short term, all right? Classic being someone says, I can't handle life, I have these thoughts in my head all the time, and the only way I can get rid of them is by drinking alcohol. And then those thoughts go away. So you cannot tell me that alcohol is providing me with value, and no value, because it is, because the voices have gone away. Well, no, because then the next morning when you wake up with an hangover, the voices are back. And you can't control those voices. Do you really think that you're generating them? They're just there. Okay, we don't know why they're there. We don't know how that part of your mind works, but they're there. You're not controlling them. B, the only way to deal with these voices is not to try to get rid of them, because that's impossible. The only way to get rid of them is to be dead, okay? The way that you deal with them is learning to live with them, learning to experience these voices. Okay, and learning to say to them, oh, here they are again. These voices that have turned up into my head that have nothing to do with me. And once you learn to deal and exist with these voices over time, they won't bother you. Therefore, you will not need to drink alcohol. Okay, that then is the real deal. That is, you've sorted your problem out. You're not sorting your problem out by every single day trying to drink to block out these voices. It's like putting a plaster on a shotgun wound, all right? So value to me, in terms of what Allen Carr was talking about, was incredibly, incredibly important to me. Because then, in thinking about his notion that alcohol held no value to me, and me believing that that was true, and in thinking about it and studying it and reading it and writing about it and doing videos about it, what I was able to do, thanks to neuroplasticity, is I was able to create new non-declarative memories in my mind for all these different environments, okay? Going to the football, going to the pub, having a drink after work, after the boys. I either removed myself from those situations or I continued to go, but I realized the value wasn't there and I changed my way of thinking about it. And then over time, what happened was, because there was no value, because I believed it wholeheartedly and turned it into a conviction, because I changed the way that I was thinking to believing that alcohol had no value. And by the way, when you think that alcohol has been providing you for value for 3 decades and you realize it hasn't, and you've been drinking that fucking stuff for all that time, knowing that the addiction has hoodwinked you into doing it for nothing, wasting all that money, wasting all those relationships, destroying all those experiences. I don't know about you, I get fucking angry about that shit. I get angry. I'm really, really angry about alcohol. Alcohol to me is my Adolf Hitler. I can't fucking stand the stuff, right? So couple that to these change in non-declarative memories, and suddenly alcohol has no value. So because alcohol has no value, I don't get any craving or desire, which meant as soon as I finished the book, I never ever felt a desire or craving to drink alcohol again, okay? Super, super important. That was 9 years ago, folks. 9 years ago. It doesn't have to be as hard as we think it has to be. The only reason it's hard is because the resistance is at its peak. And if we're not willing to do everything that it takes in order to get rid of that resistance, then it's going to be a bit of a challenge. And one of those things I think we need to do is be radically open-minded about the type of teachings that Allen Carr is going to send out there. And once you realize that alcohol holds no value for you, and you've been drinking for 3 or 4 or 5 decades, believing that it does, then you can ask yourself, well, how did this happen? How have I been drinking for so long, believing that alcohol holds value? Okay? And once you start asking those questions, then you end up at Strive. You end up taking a Truth About Alcohol taster. You end up taking the year-long Truth About Alcohol intensive. And then everything changes. Because once you start to ask those questions, you start to examine your life in a real holistic sense. How the world operates, how cultures operate, ideologies, worldviews, societal structures, how we are programmed to think instead of consciously making choices, and then where that all comes from, which obviously comes from our childhood, and then realizing, wow, I don't have that long on this planet anymore. It's going to go in a blink of an eye. Let's make a change. Let's do things differently, okay? That is the power that is in this book if you're willing to open yourselves up to it, all right? So there you are, Allen Carr's Easyway Control Alcohol. Buy it. I think it's fantastic. Supplement it with the Truth About Alcohol taster, all right? Because if you take the Truth About Alcohol taster November the 1st, you will become a member of the Strive Community Forum for a month. The one thing missing from Allen Carr's book is the community aspect of it and the importance of working together in a peer-to-peer group, all right, which we provide you at Strive. There's a few things that we integrate Allen Carr's teaching into the Truth About Alcohol philosophy, but we expand upon it in areas that we think that Allen, God bless his soul, missed out on a few things, or didn't quite get right, in my opinion, all right? So take that Truth About Alcohol tester and you will get a little bit of an understanding about what we're doing in the intensive. And then after a month of not drinking alcohol, maybe you'll be ready to take the next step and join myself and the other people in the intensive group who are living the life, right? We're living the life. We are people who do not drink alcohol, and we spend every waking moment helping other people do the same. Take care of yourself. What will follow next is a short 2-minute outro talking about the intensive and the taster. If you heard it before, shut off now. If you haven't heard it before, please listen to it. It's really important. Thanks, as always, for listening.